Former All Blacks scrum half Justin Marshall has delivered a powerful reminder of what awaits New Zealand on their upcoming tour to South Africa, describing it as probably the most difficult challenge that you put the boots on for. With anticipation building around what has been branded the greatest rivalry tour, Marshall's comments underline the magnitude of the task facing the All Blacks when they head to the Republic in August. The schedule is relentless, the venues intimidating, and the opposition as fierce as ever. For Marshall, who experienced the cauldron of South African rugby firsthand during the historic 1996 series win, there is no tougher assignment in the sport. A blockbuster tour awaits. New Zealand's itinerary is as demanding as it is historic. The All Blacks will first take on all four of South Africa's United Rugby Championship, URC, franchises before launching into a brutal four-test series against the Springboks. 3 of those tests will be staged in South Africa, in Johannesburg and Cape Town, before the fourth and final encounter takes place in Baltimore on September 12th. Taking the rivalry to American soil. It is a tour designed not merely to entertain, but to test the limits of endurance, depth, and mental fortitude. Provincial fixtures will serve as tone setters, softening up the squad before the main event. For consecutive test matches against the reigning world champions, a rivalry forged in history. The rivalry between the All Blacks and the Springboks stretches back over a century. The two nations first met in 1921, when South Africa toured New Zealand and drew a fiercely contested test series. Since that inaugural clash, the Giants of the Southern Hemisphere have contested 12 full series, with each country hosting 6 apiece. Every meeting has carried weight, shaped narratives, and defined generations of players. South Africa secured their only series victory in New Zealand in 1937, a triumph still revered in Springbok folklore. Meanwhile, the All Blacks endured decades of frustration before finally conquering South Africa on home soil in 1996. The Marshall was part of that history-making squad. The benchmark of 1996, the 1996 tour, remains one of New Zealand rugby's most iconic achievements. Until then, no All Black side had won a test series in South Africa. The weight of expectation and the aura surrounding South African venues had proved too much for previous generations. Marshall, then a dynamic young scrum half, was embedded in that squad and witnessed firsthand the physical and psychological intensity of touring South Africa. Reflecting on the upcoming tour during an appearance on the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby podcast, he left no room for doubt about its scale. I've said this before, and I say it because for me it's factual, which is as an All Black, it's probably the most difficult challenge that you put the boots on for, and equally whether you're the coach as well, to go to South Africa. For Marshall, the challenge transcends eras. The jersey may evolve, tactics may shift, but the hostility and intensity remain constant. Bigger than the Lions? Podcast host Andy Rowe pressed Marshall further, asking whether a tour to South Africa truly surpasses even a British and Irish Lions series in magnitude. That Marshall's answer was immediate. "Yeah, I think so," he said, his reasoning centered on the element of home advantage. A Lions series, while colossal in stature, grants the host nation familiarity, their own training bases, crowd support, and environmental control. The advantage of the Lions is they're at home, Marshall explained. You're in your own environment, you've got control of the situation, you've got basically the majority of the crowd there. Touring South Africa offers no such comfort. To go to South Africa in their conditions, with their passion for the game, and to go back to back in 4 test matches on the bounce with those provincial games, it is the relentlessness of the schedule, not merely the opposition, that amplifies the difficulty. The provincial gauntlet before even facing the Springboks in test rugby. The All Blacks must navigate encounters against South Africa's 4 URC franchises. Those fixtures are far from ceremonial. Marshall emphasized that every provincial player views a clash against the All Blacks as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to stake a claim, deliver a statement, or simply measure themselves against the best. What South African rugby player who doesn't get to pull the Springbok jersey on doesn't want to have a crack at the All Blacks? He asked rhetorically in practical terms. That means the All Blacks will face opponents treating each provincial match as a de facto test. The physical toll accumulates. The attrition compounds. Everybody's playing their test match in those provincial games, Marshall said. So you get bashed around in those as well. By the time the test series begins, bodies are bruised and depth charts tested. The environment factor: few rugby environments rival South Africa stadiums for intensity. The altitude of Johannesburg adds physiological strain. Coastal humidity in Cape Town brings different challenges. Travel between cities stretches recovery windows. Beyond geography lies culture. South Africa's rugby identity is inseparable from national pride. The Springbok jersey carries deep symbolism, and when the All Blacks visit, it ignites fervor unmatched in many other rivalries. Marshall's use of the word passion was deliberate. He understands that playing in South Africa is not solely about executing lineouts and managing territory. It is about absorbing waves of emotion from the crowd, from the opposition, from history itself. Point 4 tests on the bounce. The modern rugby calendar rarely permits 4 consecutive tests between the same two nations in such a compressed time frame. That is precisely what makes this tour so formidable. Momentum can swing rapidly. Injuries can alter selection dynamics. Psychological edges can shift within a week. For coaches, the chess match becomes intricate. Adaptation between tests is critical. For players, maintaining physical output across 4 collisions-heavy encounters requires meticulous conditioning. Marshall believes this crucible is precisely what defines professional rugby at its highest level. That's why you play the game. That's why you coach the game. To have those opportunities to go and test yourself against the toughest environment, the most competitive situation you're ever going to get yourself put through. The ultimate professional challenge. Marshall's admiration for the challenge is clear. He does not frame the tour as something to fear, but rather as the pinnacle of what rugby can offer. Taking on a challenge that daunting is what gets you out of bed big time to be a professional rugby player or a professional coach, he said. Man, that's the ultimate. That sentiment captures the ethos of the All Blacks. Springboks rivalry. It is not merely about trophies or rankings. It is about legacy. Each series adds a chapter to a narrative stretching back to 1921. Every generation is judged by how it performs in this arena. A rivalry renewed. The upcoming tour arrives at a fascinating juncture for both nations. The Springboks remain one of the sport's dominant forces, blending tactical precision with forward power. The All Blacks, meanwhile, are navigating evolution under new leadership and seeking to reassert authority on the global stage. Baltimore's inclusion as the venue for the 4th test adds a novel dimension, expanding the rivalry's footprint beyond its traditional strongholds. Yet regardless of geography, the core dynamic remains unchanged. 2 rugby superpowers colliding with history watching. What will it take for New Zealand to succeed? They will require depth across positions, resilience under pressure, and tactical adaptability. Winning in South Africa demands mastery of territory, set-piece solidity, and emotional composure amid hostile atmospheres. Marshall knows better than most what it takes. The 1996 side combined skill with steel, matching South Africa's physicality while trusting their attacking instincts. That blueprint remains relevant. Conclusion: as August approaches, the rugby world is primed for another installment of its most storied rivalry to many. It is a marquee tour. Justin Marshall. It is something more profound, the ultimate examination of what it means to be an All Black, from the grinding provincial clashes to 4 consecutive tests against the Springboks. The journey will test every dimension of the squad, but in that challenge lies the allure, because, as Marshall so emphatically put it, pulling on the boots for a tour to South Africa represents the toughest assignment in rugby union, and perhaps its most rewarding.